what we're doing here is we're wrapping the cylinder-shaped tea lights stacked on top of each other with paper. So basically what we're trying to figure out is surface area of a cylinder. Okay, a cylinder is comprised of a top, a base, and the middle section. Okay, and what we have to do is figure out how we can cover that. If I were to cut the top like a can opener and flip it up, it's going to look like this over here. Okay, if I am cutting the bottom down and doing the same thing, it's going to look like this over here. Okay, and then if I take a scissors or something and cut right down the edge, down the middle, from the top circle to the bottom circle, I'm going to end up, and I unfold it, and you can see where the stars are if I unfold it. All right, one star ends up over here, one star ends up over here, and then we have a flat rectangle. Okay, these are all ideas or concepts that we need to understand when dealing with cylinders. Okay, especially surface area. All right, now we have to figure out the surface area of this flat object. Now, if you can remember the area of a circle, okay, the area of the circle is equal to pi r squared. Okay, and now we have two of those. So what eventually it's going to end up is, if we have two of them, okay, we can multiply this number when we solve it out. We can multiply it by 2. So we might as well write it as 2 times pi r squared. Okay, now the other part to it is we now just calculated the area of the circle. Now we have to calculate the area of this rectangular part. And if you remember, the area of a rectangle is length times width, but in this case we're going to call it height because the cylinder sits on an object. It's a 3D object. So the height is this distance here. Okay? So we have the height times the distance basically between these two stars. Okay? But if you look at it, that's the same as the distance around the circle. All right? Now, if we remember, the distance around any circle is called the circumference. And we can calculate the circumference by doing 2 pi r. All right? Now, so it becomes 2 pi r times the height. All right? If we put these two together, we end up with the formula for area of a cylinder. All right? So the surface area of a cylinder is equal to 2 times the area of the circles, which is pi r squared, okay, plus 2 pi r times the height. All right, and then we can just simply plug in the measurements. Okay, so that's basically the information that you need to remember. Now, if we're going to solve this problem, okay, we have our height of one tea light, which is 3.5, and if you look at the picture, our radius is also 3.5. Okay, so we're just going to plug in. Now, we have 3.5, and there are 1, 2, 3, 4, plus the top one is 5. So it's actually going to be 3.5 times 5. All right, and 3 times 5 is 15. All right, and so on. You can calculate it out. I'll pull up the calculator if you want, and I'll go 3.5 times 5 is equal to 17.5. So this is going to equal 17.5. All right, so that's going to be our h of the whole object. So now I figured that one out, so I can just simply plug it in and play. So equals 2 times 3.14, okay, times 3.5 squared plus 2 plus 2 times, I'm just going to erase that out there, I messed up a little bit. Okay, and 2 times 3.14 times the height, times the radius, sorry, is 3.5, okay, times height, which is 17.5. Okay, and I'm using brackets. Excuse me. Sorry about that. I'm using brackets to denote that I'm not using the multiplication sign. Okay, so this becomes 2 times 3.14 times the radius squared. Okay, so I have to do all the steps that I can. And the next equal sign, I can't do 2 yet. Okay, I can't do 2 multiplied by what's inside the brackets. I have to do the exponents first. So I'm going to go 3.14. All right, now 3.5 times 3.5, or 3.5 squared, becomes 12.25. All right, then I'm going to add the addition, and then I can do all of this together. So I'm going to do it in little sections. 2 times 3.14, I know gives me 2 point... No, sorry. Erase that out there. Gives me 6.28. Okay. Times 3.5 times 17. I'm going to do that in calculator. 3.5 times 17.5 equals, okay, that's going to be 61. So it's going to be times 61 point, what was that again? 3.5 times 17.5 equals 61.25. 61.25. Okay, and then I'm going to multiply that by 6.28. So on my next line, I'm going to end up with 2, and then I can do this one. So I'm going to do 3.14 times 112.5 is equal to 39.25. Okay, so then I'm going to end up with 39.25 plus 6.28 times 61.25 equals 384.465. 384.65. And then I'm going to do 2 times 39.25. 2 times 39.25 equals 78.5. So 78.5 plus 384.65 is equal to plus 384.65 is equal to 463.15. So 463.15. Now, when we're dealing with surface area, it becomes millimeters squared. Okay, and there are 10 millimeters in a centimeter. Okay, so we could say that we need, all right, therefore we need 46.315 centimeters squared of paper. All right. Okay, now if you kind of misplaced a decimal place throughout the whole thing, you might not have ended up with the exact same answer. But if you ended up with around 460 something, 61, whatever, you're close enough, you have the right way of doing it. Now, would you have put the formula together right away? Probably not exactly, but you can see how the parts go together. I'm going to use this green arrow, this green part, to kind of go to shade the different parts. Maybe I'll use the highlighter. Okay, so this part of the formula is the area of this circle here, all right, and this circle here. Okay, now I'm going to use the red line. This portion, okay, is this portion here. All right, it's this portion here. Okay, now we get that because that's the same distance around, right? And it becomes the circumference. All right, and then the h, okay, is simply, if I use, let's go with black. If I use black, the h is just simply this area here. And that's how you would solve this problem.